How are you all doing today? So we're going over a tune-up on my John Deere X350 lawnmower. I went by the dealership, told them what model I had, and they were able to put together a tune-up kit for me. We have the oil filter, air filter, the air pre-filter. This wraps around the air filter, a fuel filter, 2 spark plugs, and 2 quarts of oil. We're not going to use the full 2 quarts. We're just going to keep an eye on the dipstick and figure out when we're full. The tools you're going to need are a 13/16 spark plug wrench, a 3/8 socket set, unless you have a 1/2-inch drive spark plug wrench. This set I've had since I was probably 14 years old, so it's about 15 years old. It was $35 or $40 at that time. It's a nice Craftsman made in the USA. And then we're also going to need a strap wrench for the oil filter. Let's go grab the lawnmower. I've just got it sitting right here. I already ran it a little bit earlier today, so the oil has been circulated. It really starts up pretty well, but as you can see, I'm just a little bit over 100 hours, and that's whenever they recommend that you go ahead and do a tune-up on it. There's one more tool that we're going to need that is going to reveal my messy shed. Let's take a walk through the backyard. My shed is an absolute mess. I spilled some paint in here earlier today. I'm just waiting for it to dry so then I can scrape up what I can. But we need an oil drain pan. And we're just going to set that right there. This mower has been used a little bit, as you guys can tell. So what I want to start with is taking off this negative battery cable. This is a pretty standard safety procedure, because if the battery's not hooked up, then nothing can start. You can't get your hand caught in anything inside. And so I'm going to guess that that's a 7/16. A little bit smaller. Maybe a 3/8. It's metric. The fabled 10mm? It is. So I don't want to mess with my adapter. We're just going to do this. Don't really need anything fancy to get this off of here. Once it starts to come loose, we don't need a second set of pliers or anything. I'm just going to pull that negative off of there. I also want to pull my secondary thing. I like to put my nuts and bolts back where they came from. Prop that back up out of the way. And then let's get our drain pan set up. I've already got a little bit of oil in here. As it gets full, then I take it up to auto zone and put it in their used oil collection area. And so you'll see that we can't really get down in there too well. But that does sit there pretty securely, so we need a way to get from there, which is the oil drain, to in there. So what I want you to do with my water go ahead and open up the box for the air filter. Set it off. And we're just going to rip up this box and make us a little temporary bridge to get the oil down in there. Get it nice and curled up. Y'all see my smoker going over there? Let me turn this up a little bit. Got some nice blue smoke coming out of there. I've got a pork shoulder on. And we're just gonna kind of put that under there, and that's gonna let the oil get down here. We're gonna crack the dipstick. And then we're gonna open up the oil drain. Watch your fingers. See, it was definitely time for mine. The reason I took the dipstick off is because that lets the crankcase vent and it lets the oil come out better. So we can see that that's pretty dark oil. I probably should have done this a while ago. But while we're letting that oil drain, we're going to go ahead and take care of spark plugs. We have one spark plug here, that little guy. And one over here. This one's going to be a little bit more difficult. Sometimes they don't like to come off. There we go. Go ahead and grab our spark plug socket. For this one I am going to use an extension. Just a little 3-inch. Keep our knuckles out of the way. Make sure we're on loosen. Spark plugs are never tight. Once I've broken it loose, I'm just going to take it out by hand. This is kind of a neat little spark plug socket. I just bought this. It's magnetic. I'll grab one of our new spark plugs. I usually only do stuff like this one at a time, so we can see the difference. That's a pretty good looking spark plug, really. I mean, it doesn't have excessive whiteness. There's no oil fouling, so that tells us that this engine is healthy, other than needing a tune-up. Go ahead and pop that back in there. I really like that, actually. May have to get more of those. What I want you to do, don't start this with the ratchet. I want you to start this by hand. Spark plugs are really pretty fragile. And if you get them cross-threaded, you're in for a world of trouble. Just back that off, make sure we've got our threads started. We do, okay. So there's finger tight. Let me hop back over to this other spark plug and show you something. So you see this little washer that's on here. We'll compare it to the other new one. You can kind of see this one is thicker than this one. I don't know if you can see that really well in the video. That's called a crush washer, and that is actually meant to crush as you tighten it, and that is what seals the cylinder. So we're just gonna tighten this down until we feel it snug up. You don't have to really crank down on your spark plugs, and that gasket does the important job. And then we're going to pop the spark plug boot back on there, press hardly, not hardly, press hard on it, and you're going to feel it snap in place. Once you feel that snap, you know that it's set in there. So now we'll pull this other spark plug off. It's often easier once you break them loose just to do it by hand. Easier to manipulate. And this spark plug is going to tell us the health of the other cylinder. That looks pretty good as well. So we have a generally healthy motor. A lot of spark plug wrenches, instead of having that magnet, they have a rubber boot down in there that keeps everything from cranking left or right and snapping the ceramic on the spark plug. But then that also really grips on to the spark plug, and a lot of times, especially working on cars, it seems like when you can't reach it, your socket pulls out of there and leaves everything behind, leaving you to get in there and finagle around, try to get that thing off of there. And this magnetic one, I don't see that it would cause that issue. So I may end up picking up some more of these, because I like that. Okay, more hand tight. Pop that on there. Seat that crush washer. There it goes. And then just a little extra, maybe about a quarter turn. Snap that on. Don't know if you guys could hear that. You can feel the snap. And then let's pop back over. Okay, so our oil is pretty much drained. So let's go ahead and put that dipstick back on. Put the drain plug back on. Set this off to the side. We'll want to throw that away later. Put that back in. And I'm not quite ready to do the oil filter yet. I want to get this air filter taken care of. So on these John Deeres with the Kawasaki engines, we just have a real easy air filter change. We have the cover, it comes right off, and then they make a nice little wing nut pre-installed. We're just going to loosen that up, pop our old air filter out of there. See, this thing is nasty. Here's that pre-filter that I was telling you about, and then the new one. Look at all of that coming off of there. This mower doesn't have an easy life. So, new versus old pre-filter. New versus old air filter. Pre-filter on. This keeps the big chunks. You can see this doesn't have any big chunks in it. That's what the pre-filter is for. That catches all of the loose grass. and lets the air filter catch the little stuff. Pop that on there. Rotate that wing nut up a little bit. Get this tightened down. And put our filter cover back on. I forgot how messy it is under this hood. In a few weeks, you guys may get to watch me actually wash this thing. See, there's actually writing under there, believe it or not. We also need to take care of the fuel filter, so I need to go grab a pair of pliers. Embarrass myself with my shed again. Even worse, you're going to get to see my tool bag. Unless I'm lucky and left myself a pair of pliers up here. And I'm not a generally very lucky guy. So, I think these will do nicely. I mean, definitely overkill. But those of you that know me well know that I tend to enjoy overkill. Get a drink of water. Because it's pretty warm out here today. We'll go ahead and grab our fuel filter. So, can you guys see that arrow? That shows you the direction of the flow. So we're going to set that right there. So the direction of the flow, we have the gas tank back here. Fuel line runs up underneath, comes out right here, and then goes to the fuel pump in the engine. This is not gravity fed. So, sometimes overkill can bite you in the butt. These may be too big. I think we can manage. We just want to grab onto that little clip and slide it backwards. I want those to tighten down a little more. There we go. We got that. Let's see if we can get the other side. You'd think they would have given you a quick clip or something on this. Let's get it from the other side of the mower. Maybe a quick clip. Yeah, that's a little Christmas tree. Get the vice grips out of there. Grab the flat blade, and we're just going to pry this little retainer right out of here. They call these Christmas tree clips because they're shaped like Christmas trees. Yeah, now we can get at that a lot easier. Much better. Keep coming, keep backing off. Okay. Let's see if that's enough to bust us loose. Not quite. Well, get those to tighten down a little bit more. I really hate these little quick fittings that they put on stuff. Okay. And so we may have to rotate a little bit. And there we go. So with this being a bigger motor, it has a fuel pump. This is the fuel pump right here. And so this other line that runs next to the fuel filter is the fuel return line. Rotate that a little bit. You're always going to lose a little bit of gasoline. Luckily, since this isn't gravity fed, we won't lose a whole bunch. Pop those back on there. Squeeze that back up where it was. It could go up a little further. There we go. Pop back over to the other side. Get him where he belongs. There we go. Let's go ahead and pop that little Christmas tree back in. Where did it go? Down in there. Uh-oh. We made a boo-boo. We got on the wrong side of the battery cable. Not a big deal. But it is a big deal that we're on the wrong side of this connector. In this case, it's just going to be easier to undo that connector. Scoot it on down there. Push it back in there, and that's that. So now the last item of our tune-up is getting that oil filter out of there. That one's going to be a little bit messy. I'm going to need more water for this. Go Hogs. Here's our new oil filter. They're not very big guys. And this is going to be what we use the strap wrench on. So strap wrenches are a great tool. As you can imagine, that would be a pretty big socket. What a strap wrench does is you can tighten it up pretty much to any size you need, and then as you pull, this stretches, increases the friction, and allows you to tighten, or if you turn it around the other direction, it allows you to loosen. You can't go this way or it pulls loose. And so we've got the size that we need. And the nice thing about a strap wrench is they often fit anywhere. So you can see how easy that was. I probably could have done that by hand. And yep, there goes the oil. Not a whole lot you can do about that. That oil filter is full. That's the thing about changing oil. It's never going to be a clean job. And so I usually have to play around and figure out with my fingers kind of what direction that strap wrench wants to go. Okay, can't back that off by hand, so I'm going to call that good. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, oh boy, I just finished everything. No, you didn't. we have one more very important step, and this is the part that is about most likely to ruin the engine, and that is changing the filter, or putting new oil in. We just changed the filter. So this is my last trip to the shed. Need to find myself a rag. I can see how much oil we need. Your owner's manual will tell you exactly how much oil you need. I know it's over a quart. I know it's under 2 quarts. So we're gonna do about 1 1/4 quarts. And then we'll check it. And we'll pour in slowly. It was just easiest for me to buy the engine oil from the dealership. You can probably get cheaper oil, but I would have had to make multiple stops. I'm not really a fan of that. Time is money. It's worth it to me just to get everything in one place. If you have a funnel, I would recommend using it. But as I just showed, you don't exactly have to use a funnel. Now, this being a precious resource, we want to make sure that we get everything we can out of there. So I'm just going to hold that for a little bit, check on my smoke again. That's looking pretty good. That should be ready to eat probably about 6 or 7 o'clock tonight, and it's around 1:30 I think right now. Okay, got most of that out of there. It's better to underfill your engine than to overfill it. If you overfill it, you can actually blow out the piston rings because of too much oil pressure. So we're going to check it, and we are just barely showing on the bottom of the dipstick. So I think I was pretty close by saying 1 1/4 quarts. So there's 16, so we're going to go down to 24-ish and check again. If you were feeling really particular about it, you can measure it out with a measuring cup. But this is Berryville, Arkansas. We don't need any fancy measurements. That's about 24. We'll just give it a little splash. Always have a rag for checking your oil. Get the dipstick cleaned off. Let's see what we got. So we're about halfway up, almost to the full line. So I think we'll do another 8 ounces or so. Let's do another pint. Boop. Oh, that's beautiful. Right up to the bottom of the line. Can y'all see that? We'll put that in. Yes, I'll pick up my trash. Now we just need to hook the battery back up and we're ready to go. So that was a 10mm. These little extra wires that I have on here go to a quick disconnect because I use a sprayer on this mower. And when I want to take it off, I can just disconnect it right there. And if I ever want any other electrical accessories, I can just put that wire in with that style of plug and I'm ready to go. And now we're ready to go. Just straighten up some of our tools here. Get our empty bottle, strap wrench. This is our partial bottle of oil. We'll save that for top offs here and there. While we're cleaning up, you see how that oil filter has oil down in it? To take that oil and dump it down in there. I'm going to let that sit there and drain for a little bit. Grab our John Deere bag. I also did a tune-up on the weed eater today. We're going to use this as our trash bag. Stay hydrated, my friends. Close that back up. And let's just make sure it starts, because that's the whole goal. Make it start better. Let's see if we even need the choke. Oh, that is so nice. Sounds a lot healthier. So that's been a quick tune-up on a John Deere X350. It's not that difficult to do. Doesn't take that many tools. You don't have to have this whole tool set, as long as you've got a 3/8 ratchet, a 10mm socket to disconnect the battery. You don't even need the extension. And then the 13/16 spark plug wrench, a pair of pliers, and a strap wrench. You can get big sockets that are the size of oil filters, but they're not one size fits all. The strap wrench is one size fits all. It's a great thing to have around the house. You can use it for plumbing. I highly recommend you have one in your toolbox. Once again, this is a nice set of vice grips. Since I have them out, I'll show them to y'all. What's neat about these is this little guy. Instead of just a knob, this is actually designed so you can take a set of screwdrivers, and once you've got that tightened down, you can crank that and get even more grip out of it with the screwdrivers. Milwaukee 48-22-3610. These actually make great nail pullers. Put them on top of your nail like that. Crank that guy down, and you've got some good leverage. Not as much as a hammer, but in a pinch or whenever the head breaks off your nail, these actually work really well in that case. You don't have to lay it over. See there? Max bite. Great little tool. Little side note. So that's all for today. Stay tuned. Like and subscribe on my channel, and we'll see you guys later.